Naz, thank you so much. In the studio with us again, writer and broadcaster Emma Wolfe and the columnist for The Times, Hugo Rifkind. Let's go through this morning's papers in a bit more detail. Emma, shall we start with a story inside the Mail? The headline is, "Send foreign criminals home, not to jail."
Yeah.
Whose idea is this? Is it going to happen?
Well, will it happen? Because we don't seem to be very good at deporting people at all in this country. This is the Justice Secretary, Alex Chalk, who has been saying, well, look, we already know we have a huge prison population crisis. We have a huge overcrowding problem. So he is saying, when foreign lawbreakers, when there are foreigners in this country who commit crimes, it can be petty crimes, shoplifting, that kind of thing, we need to, rather than clogging up the courts yet further, clogging up the prisons yet further, trying to prosecute them and having endless legal appeals, which is what they're doing at the moment, we're going to send them home. 13% of foreign criminals are Albanian. Then we have a lot of Polish and Romanians as well. These countries are safe countries to be sent back to. I think most people would agree that if you come to this country, yes, of course, legitimate asylum claims is one thing. If you come to this country and you break the law, you should be sent home. There is absolutely no reason why this isn't happening, and it should have been happening, and I doubt it'll happen. It costs around £50,000 a year to house people in our prisons, and we don't have enough space as it is. We have 1,000 places left. We could run out of prison space by next Friday. I'm not sure how that works, by the way, but that's what I've been told. We could run out by next Friday.
I have so many things that jump out of this story. The first is, I absolutely agree with you. We have 170,000 economic migrants / refugees, let's make the difference, waiting to be processed. And some Tory minister who's been in the job for 5 minutes thinks as an election arises by telling the world that foreign offenders will be deported rather than face punishments, that's going to resonate. They don't have a track record in being able to do this. Let's nail that. The second thing is, maybe this government should get off its backside and make deals. I know this for a fact. Albanians, male Albanians, they were a much larger percentage until we did a deal with Albania, and that's why people went back. So maybe the government, rather than doing this, should be out making deals. Of course these people should go back to their countries, but you can't expect, Hugo, the electorate to believe that this is going to happen in, 7 months? We haven't even got a flight to Rwanda yet. It's been 10 years, isn't it?
We're appalling at sending people back,
yes.
Even when everybody agrees they ought to be sent back. Around a quarter of people who ended up detained by immigration services end up being deported. Problem with this, of course, as you say, is on the one hand, it looks great. People commit crimes. Why should our prison system pay for them? Why should we expend those resources? On the other hand, if you're from Albania and you know if you get caught for shoplifting, all that's going to happen is you get sent home. You know,
might as well shoplift.
Well, no, but it's worse. It's worse.
But I think actually, it's quite important for the justice system that we get hold of people. Quite a lot of the time, we're fighting quite hard to get criminals sent here because we want to prosecute them. You know, so it's not a silver bullet to just send people away when they commit crimes. It disempowers us.
We don't have the court time with the judges, the magistrates, the juries. We don't have that prosecuting resourcing time to be endlessly prosecuting.
Well, we've got to prosecute them whether
criminals.
they get sent home or not. I mean, they've got to go through the courts first.
I don't care whether we have returns agreements. I think we should just send them back. Why are we so worried? We were endlessly hand-wringing about Shamima Begum and whether, oh, she's our problem, we created her. Oh, we need to deal with her. No. She's not. I mean, if we're going to deal with other foreign criminals, why can't we? I don't understand this thing at all. You come to this country, fine, we will welcome you if you have a legal claim. Why on earth, if you break the law?
I mean, you're slightly contradicting yourself, because if foreign criminals ought to be sent back, then Shamima Begum ought to be sent back to us, because she's a foreign criminal somewhere else and she's one of us. You know, so you can go one way, but you can't go both ways.
I know. I am totally contradicting myself, but I think we have a problem with deporting people who need to be deported in this country.
Shall we move on to the next story?
Sorry.
Bridget Phillipson's going to be on the programme in the next half an hour from the Labour Party, and you can give us a preview, Hugo, of what she's going to be announcing. Labour plans to tackle misogyny in schools. That sounds like a great idea, but how? They're
going to do it basically in my understanding, this is in the Guardian, by basically trying to combat the negative influence of influencers such as Andrew Tate, who has, enormous reach in schools. I interviewed Andrew Tate last year, shortly before he was arrested. I went over to see him in Romania, and he's a problem. He's a very charismatic guy. You can see why young boys are very much in his thrall. I don't think it's quite enough to say, hang on, this is sexist, this is nasty, and expect teenage boys to go, oh no, and throw up their hands and back away. It's because he says the unsayable that teenage boys are excited by him. in the same way that in earlier generations of kids were excited by punk and other forms of rebellion. Something has happened in our society where maximum rebellion looks like the kind of sort of patriarchal sexism of days of old. That is a rebellious thing to do now, and that is why it appeals to boys, among other reasons. So I'm very interested to hear what Labour's going to do. I question whether it'll be that effective because I'm not sure anything is.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Emma?
and just doing it in classrooms. Isn't it more about sort of how you're brought up, how you feel about women in your family, how you feel about how you treat your mum and your sisters and your female friends? Like, it's much more of a cultural... It comes from your upbringing as well as just what you see online, because there's always going to be that now.
It does, but whatever your upbringing, you may find an appeal in rebelling against it, and that's sort of what he represents.
That is the and what was really surprising for many parents, they didn't know who Andrew Tate was, and suddenly they're having conversations with their children, and you realise, oh my goodness, this is sort of like put in popular culture in the playground, and
it really is. It's all about the wealth and the lifestyle as well as just the attitude. It's the fact that he's living the dream for many.
When we started a year and a half ago in Ealing, young Henry, who's 14, came with me, not bothered at all. Andrew Tate came to be interviewed by Piers Morgan, and I thought he'd met the Lord. I mean, he literally couldn't speak, this guy, and that is frightening, the power of social media.
Can I say...
I do actually agree with Emma. I mean, I'm an old fossil, apparently, but I was taught to open the door for a lady. I was taught to be respectful. I tell this great story about my old man. I never saw him cry twice. And he used to work in London, and one of his last things was to take the tube on one of his last days, and he got up for a pregnant woman who had a baby and was pregnant, and she turned on him in front of the whole carriage and said, "It's sexist old men like you that," and he was mortified because that's how he brought us up. I know that can be misconstrued nowadays, but I do think parents. I think Emma's right. I think parents should have a major part, but social media is so powerful, right?
See, if Andrew Tate was sitting here next to me instead of Emma, he'd tell you that he'd agree with you about that story about your father, because the way he spreads his message is by combining this kind of sort of really like nasty sort of I shall build a harem of strippers sexism with this sort of very old-fashioned male protector kind of thing, which makes him very, very hard to fight against. I will say, having been to his house, he's not living the dream. He lives in a rather shabby warehouse in the outskirts of Bucharest, and it's just designed to look very nice on the inside.
There's something decidedly uncomfortable about the man and the message and the whole persona, to be perfectly honest.
Front page of the Telegraph, Emma. The UK is lagging 15 years behind on cancer survival rates. I mean, that sounds pretty shocking to start with. Give us the details.
It's a very depressing story, actually. This is a study from University College London, and they looked at 8 different kinds of treatment, of different types of cancer across the world. For the UK, I'll just give you the worst survival rates. Stomach cancer, lung, colon and ovarian cancer. In this country, we are, as you say, lagging 15 years behind our counterparts. We're far less likely to receive radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Much longer waiting times, much delayed diagnosis, and of course we all know the best thing is to get in, and start treatment early. And the differences were worst amongst older people. There's a kind of apparently a fatalistic attitude amongst doctors that it's not really worth trying radiotherapy and chemotherapy for older people, which I think is really sad, especially as we're all living longer and we're going to need these kind of interventions. But the main problem is shortages in the NHS of staff and of equipment. I mean, we are pouring billions into the NHS. It seems astonishing.
It's very interesting, actually. As you know, I had cancer, and somebody once told me years and years ago, don't give to cancer research, Jez. Give to cancer relief, because there are many families who are left bereft and penniless. But this would argue against that and say that we're so far behind and we should still be trying to do what we can to raise money to deal with getting the equipment and getting the knowledge that we need, right?
I hate to say it, these are the problems of a declining nation. We were talking an hour ago about how spending needs to rise, taxes are rising, Britain hasn't got enough money, black holes in our finances. These things aren't theoretical.
It's all a bit miserable, isn't it?
These things come out in things like cancer rates.
A little bit of light relief, maybe. Not in your household. Peppa Pig. Hugo, this is Inside the Times.
Yes.
Peppa's piggish antics are turning our children into brats, say US parents.
Americans are very upset with Peppa Pig for 2 reasons. First, they were upset because apparently Peppa Pig was making their kids talk in British accents and say things like yuck. which they were very upset about. Although there's plenty of places in America where you think a nice British yuck would be infinitely preferable. But also they've decided that Peppa Pig is too rude to her parents and disrespectful. She's 4, she's a pig, you know. But
it doesn't matter whether she's a pig or not.
Oh.
Try a 4-year-old whoever wrote this, and you'll understand.
In America, they said Peppa is rude, bossy, a liar, a tattletale, and more.
Yeah, but then
She is very bossy.
But then Daddy Pig's a fat waster, and Mummy Pig's a bit of a nightmare. So
and Mummy and Daddy Pig they have a real passive-aggressive thing going on. Adults, you really notice how nasty they are to each other. If Mummy Pig can basically shaft Daddy Pig, if she can like get him, you know, no pancakes left for him, that kind of thing. She gets the children laughing at them. We watch a lot of Peppa Pig.
He is an excellent swimmer.
Yes, he is.
I find it both frightening and yet hysterical that 2 of the most intelligent people I know knew so much about Peppa. I am never going to be able to sit with Oliver again on a Sunday morning at 6:30 and think she's passive-aggressive, he's fat, she doesn't swim, they're all having pancakes, she's rude to her mother. Honest to God.
Just watch the dynamic between the Mummy and Daddy Pig. You watch that.
No, because what happens is...
It's not a nice relationship.
I don't care. It comes on and that gives me 10 minutes to read mail online and go like that. Oh, like that. Oh, great.
One episode of Peppa Pig is long enough to wash your hair.
Hold on. The wife... Oliver saw Peppa on your TV. Yeah, absolutely. Oliver's watching Peppa right now instead of this. So there you are. That's from the wife. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you both so much, Emma
Thanks,
and Hugo. It has been a pleasure as ever. They'll be back in just under an hour's time.